Happy Saturday evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this urgent update. And you'll see momentarily why it's an urgent update. And I'm so grateful that there's over 100 of you that have already come online. And it's going to be critical information that I need to share with all of you. And I'm going to take my time to get to it so I can wait for other folks to tune in to our live stream. I know it usually takes some folks a while to get connected. So I'm going to go through a couple of things just to kind of set the stage. And then I'll give you the urgent update at the end, what we've been faced with as a congregation. So again, thank you to all of you who have tuned in and you're here with us on the live stream. And once this information is put forward, please encourage everybody you know to get connected, listen to this, get involved. We are at a critical juncture and we really could use your help. And as we speak, there's forces being assembled now. And we could use all the help we could get. And I'll go through that later at the end of our time together. But let me just reiterate, especially from yesterday, I've got a couple of pictures here I want to walk you through. And as I showed you with Dr. Fauci throwing out the first pitch, and you didn't get a chance to see the video, but the pitch was terrible. And as soon as, he wore a mask when he was out there, he was 60 feet from anybody. But as soon as he gets into the stands, and he's the only one who gets to watch the baseball game live because he's privileged. And as he sits with two of his friends, I'm assuming, maybe his family, I don't know the other two individuals, you can see this picture. No one's within 60 feet, and then someone sitting right next to him, he's got his mask off. It's mandatory for you, but not for him. He can, in an elite state, in an oligarchy, the few rule the many. And everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others. And that's George Orwell, Animal Farm. If you don't know the quote, you should read it. It's critical right now. And then during the opening of baseball season, we had the San Francisco Giants go out there. Everybody, according to Black Lives Matter, took a knee. And here you see one brave San Francisco Giant standing. We covered him yesterday. And here's a picture of Nazi Germany. Everyone putting their hand forward for one of the most despotic, fascist leaders the world has ever known. And you see that one man circled there, refusing to put his hand up. And that was worthy of death. And here we're watching people being shamed. Most of the people taking a knee just don't want to be exposed. They're just going along to get along. And I think enough is enough, folks. Look what's happening to our businesses throughout the state of California. LA fines businesses $356 for posting "We're open" signs. This is absolutely insane. And then in addition, while this is happening in Los Angeles, you have Mayor Eric Garcetti backing Portland demonstrators despite the violence. He tweeted Thursday in solidarity with the violent demonstrators in Portland, which we went over in detail. And the young man yesterday, somebody's been stabbed in Portland that they assumed was Philip Anderson, the man that was on the video. He was stating it's not me, and yet they stabbed somebody. An Antifa came up and stabbed them. These protests are violent. They're Marxist. They're anarchist. Let's bring back the slide, though, so I can read the last portion of it. He tweeted Thursday his solidarity with the violent demonstrators in Portland, saying that they represent the best of our democratic ideals. And while this is happening, the churches seem to be awakening. California churches defy lockdown order. Christ is the head of the church. And we had John MacArthur, the pastor of Grace Community Church, just north of us, actually east of us. Two churches in California are defying Governor Gavin Newsom's orders to keep their doors closed because of the coronavirus, including Grace Community Church in Los Angeles suburb, where Pastor John MacArthur posted a letter on Friday titled "Christ, Not Caesar, is the Head of the Church." I don't know if they're including us as one of the two churches, but I do know Jack Hibbs is open. I know there's a number of other churches open, but I'm glad at least that reporter covered some of it. So some churches are coming to a place of defiance, standing in opposition to a virus that has a 99% survival rate, 99.3, 99.5, 99.7. And of course, as we're looking at the numbers, which are exaggerated, and we're watching, and by the way, at the end of the time together tonight, I'm going to ask you to give me evidence, firsthand evidence, because there's a number of you that have shared with us that you know of people that went to go get tested for COVID, stood in the line and decided to go home, and that were informed later that they were COVID positive. And I've heard this from a number of you. So I want firsthand knowledge. I want the evidence given to us so that we can contact these people as we put our case together. In case you're wondering what all this is about, we can take a look at the LA Teachers Union, their demands. They want to defund police. They want a moratorium on charter schools. They want financial support for undocumented students and families. They want federal Medicare for all, and they want a state wealth tax. These are all the demands before they reopen the schools. This is an absolute attack on our nation. And in addition, we had some bad news this week as the Supreme Court ruled 5-4. And again, Roberts was the one who sided with the liberal judges, and they suppressed the churches in America. Here is Justice Gorsuch's, this is his dissenting from the denial of the application for injunction relief. So basically what this church was asking was for an emergency reviewing of their case. And as it went before the U.S. Supreme Court, it lost 5-4. Justice Gorsuch dissenting from denial of application for injunctive relief. And he pointed out and he said, this is a simple case. Under the governor's edict, a 10-screen multiplex may host 500 moviegoers at any time. A casino, too, may cater to hundreds at once, with perhaps 6 people huddled at each crap table here, and similar numbers gather around every roulette wheel there. Large numbers and close quarters are fine in such places, but churches, synagogues, and mosques are banned from admitting more than 50 worshipers, no matter how large the building, how distant the individuals, how many wear face masks, no matter the precautions at all. In Nevada, it seems it is better to be in entertainment than religion. Maybe that is nothing new, but the First Amendment prohibits such obvious discrimination against the exercise of religion. The world we inhabit today, with the pandemic upon us, poses unusual challenges, but there is in no world in which the Constitution permits Nevada to favor Caesar's Palace over Calvary Chapel. Of course, he was the dissenting view, along with 3 other justices. We lost that. It seemed to embolden government leaders, and we'll cover that momentarily. But on a positive note, there was a young man who was wearing a Make America Great Again hat and was accosted by protesters. The press portrayed him as smiling when in reality he was the one being attacked. This case went, they sued, and the wealthiest individual from CNN, interestingly enough, is now Nick Sandmann. He settled for $250 million with the Washington Post and CNN and took them to task. So this young 18-year-old just became $250 million richer because of a violation of this First Amendment and fake news. Now, on a sad note, tragically, we see Black Lives Matter, but apparently Black lives don't matter if you're a Trump supporter. Black lives don't matter if you are part of the Blexit, blacks exiting the Democratic Party. If you're conservative, your black life doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with black lives. It has to do with Marxist ideology. We believe Black Lives Matter, but we do not believe in the organization Black Lives Matter. We've covered that. If you're still confused about it, go to yesterday's episode. But trust me, it is not an organization you want to fund or be a part of. This black Trump supporter was shot to death. Let me go back here, please. Where was it? Well, there we go. Black Trump supporter was shot to death in Milwaukee hours after pro-Trump interview. And a drive-by yesterday just shot him to death. And tragic, absolutely tragic. And here we continue with this mask charade. We've already gone through the issues of the mask and the silliness of it all. You want to contend with, you wanting case studies, we provided all those. And here you can see the New England Journal of Medicine, Universal Masking in Hospital COVID-19 Era. You can read this on your own. Wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infections. And it goes on to cover that in more detail. When Dr. Kelly Victory was on the show, she gave the listing of all the peer-reviewed studies. You can take a look at those at your leisure. And then Erica Franzve, she is a wonderful person, a dear friend. She's been to our congregation many times, and I love what she has to say about what we're facing and all these laws that we're up against by the state of California and these draconian rules. This is from the Falkirk Center, of which she is a fellow, and it says, easy to navigate through political discord when you understand the truth. Any human law that contradicts God's moral law is an unjust law. So true. So now, I wasn't going to keep you long, and I don't plan to do that. But I wanted to share with you that after yesterday's, well, let me correct that. before yesterday's broadcast, I received a text. The text came from a man named Rigo Vargas. He says, Pastor Rob, this is Public Health Director Rigo Vargas. Can you call me when you get a chance? That was at 5:12. I was preparing for the broadcast. I didn't receive it. And at 6:59, just before the show started, I typed, I'm live at 7 p.m. and will conclude by 8:15. I will call you then. I had to actually just type THE because I didn't have the time to put the N because we went live. So at the conclusion of covering all that we're facing as a nation, knowing what the governor's done, knowing that we're in violation of it, I got home. I got to a good cell coverage location and I called Rigo Vargas. Let me just tell you who Rigo Vargas is. A lot of you have heard of Dr. Robert Levin, who is the health officer here in our county, who has been responsible, the public health medical director, who's been responsible for these health directives that have shut down our county. And we're looking at not a spike in death, not a spike in hospitalizations, a spike in cases, but what does that mean? And yet we're still doing a lockdown throughout the county. We're shutting churches. We're bordering businesses. It is the most draconian, miserable actions of any state. It's vile. And so Dr. Robert Levin, who has come out about contact tracing and the like, shutting down an apartment complex, keeping that entire complex under lockdown, and then realizing there was only one positive case, lifted the lockdown. They are going after contact tracing. They are committed fully in Ventura County. And as I got a call from Rigo Vargas, here is who he is. Take a look. You have the healthcare agency director, Johnson, and then below that is the public health director, Rigoberto Vargas, or Rigo Vargas. And he is critical component to Ventura County. Equal to him, but just to the side, is the Public Health Medical Director, Robert Levin. So in essence, the health officer reports to Rigo Vargas, and Rigo reports to the Healthcare Agency Director, Johnson. And with all that stated, this man is almost at the top of the food chain. And I called him. And I know who he is. I've met him. And I said, Rigo, how you doing? He says, good. And he called me Pastor McCoy. He was very gracious, very kind on the phone. He said, I'm calling to see if you're complying by the health officer, the directives, and that which you've been required to do. My response to him was, are you calling all the churches to ask this question? His answer, honestly, was, no, we are not. We received a complaint, and so we're calling you directly. And I said, well, if you're asking if we're complying to the First Amendment, the answer is yes. If you're asking if we're complying to the draconian measures that you've placed upon the church, which you are not placing upon Black Lives Matter or any of the protesters, the answer is no. He said, that's all I needed to hear. We're going to have to move forward with action. And I said, I understand that, Rigo. I said, you do know that I was in elected office, that I resigned from that elective office because I knew that they would have to censure me, and they would continue to have to censure me because I knew that there wasn't going to be an end to this. I knew it was going to cause our entire city consternation as they've got a city to run. And I knew that this was a non-negotiable for those civil rights, for those constitutional rights that we're standing upon, that the state would open up cannabis distributors, liquor stores, on and on and on, food stores, but they would deny the First Amendment and declare the church to be non-essential, even though we practiced CDC standards, and we even complied all the way up until they decided, as you can see with Garcetti and our governor and the rest of those that oversee our legislative body in California, they embraced Black Lives Matter and commended them and didn't prosecute as they were looting and burning and destroying businesses up and down the state, watching a spike in cases as a result of them giving carte blanche and blessing to what was occurring. We realized then it had nothing to do with the health of our state, nor our county, nor our city. And so we knew that religiously speaking and watching as alcohol consumption has increased, suicide prevention hotline has been inundated. We've watched all kinds of social barometers going through the roof. We realized the importance that we needed to open, and we did. We looked at all the data, the empirical evidence. We've had doctors on the show. We've reviewed all of these things. And we came to the conclusion as we've invested in the church, we've got ionizing machines where anyone who is of high comorbidity, we provide a broadcast FM station, encourage them to stay home, but exercising religious freedom and the freedom that you don't quarantine the healthy, you quarantine the sick, which they're not doing. There are no cases of any child contracting 18 years of age or under COVID dying from it, meaning dying from it, that didn't have comorbidities, hospitalization. And yet we're closing all of our schools and demanding these draconian measures by the unions before they'll even be willing to open the schools. We're realizing that this has nothing to do with health. It is a political ideology trying to be imposed upon the citizenry of our state, and we've had enough. And so I said to Rigo, I said, I just wanted to let you know that out of respect and love for the city that I was a council member and a mayor of, and for love of the county in which I reside, I've not gone public with this. I have done no interviews. I didn't seek to cause any trouble. As a matter of fact, when they list those newspaper articles, it states nothing about Calvary Chapel of Thousand Oaks. It talks about John MacArthur. He's come into the game in the fourth quarter, and he's all over the news, and I'm thrilled by that, quite frankly. However, we've been doing this a while, and I haven't gone nationwide with it. I've had every opportunity to, but I told Rigo, I said, I've avoided that for the sake of my friends on the council and those that I believe will do the right thing at the county level. And I said, you've got a tough job. I know what it's like to be in public office, and I pray for you. I said, but if you're going to invoke this and you're going to place measures upon us and you're going to threaten us, I just want you to know that there's going to be a return on investment, that if you're a businessman or even in public office, you need to see what the return on investment is. And at this point, if you come after us and you want to enforce these rules and you want to cause us to be closed, the gloves are off. I don't want to fight. I never have. I don't want to fight. I just want to be left alone and let our people worship their God. But you're going to come after us, and if you do, the gloves are off. We're going national. And so with that being stated, I sent that out. I told him we've lawyered up and we're ready for this fight. He said, I appreciate you being candid with me. I said, I would appreciate it if you'd let me know when you're going to enforce these so that we can prepare the congregation so that we can be peaceful in that respect, because we are good people. But there will be a visual. And if you want to put us in handcuffs and you want that, that's not going to look good across the nation. We're not going to probably win in California or the Ninth Circuit, and maybe not even win with the Supreme Court, considering how Justice Roberts has been ruling. But that narrative across the nation is not going to be a pretty one. I'd like it if you could avoid it, but if you're going to go forward with it, I just want you to know that if you give us fair warning, we'll be prepared. We will take pictures, but the way that you address it is going to be wholly up to you. He said, I appreciate that, and we will do that for you. And I take him at his word. I take him at his word. He was a good man, nice man. And I know he's in a tough spot, and everyone has to make decisions. And he feels as though this is the one he has to make. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. So as we concluded our conversation, I had a peace that came over me. We're going to have an emergency elders meeting to discuss how we move forward. But I'm going to ask all of you, our viewers, our members of our congregation, that you would please, we have experts that are prepared to testify on our behalf. We're going to seek clarity on some of the cases. We're going to call for, I forget the term, but our attorney who I spoke with today has pointed it out, that we're going to ask for the records to be unsealed. We're not going to violate HIPAA law, but we're going to want to see death certificates. We're going to want to compare those with what the families state that they die with or from COVID-19. We want to know about the young man who committed suicide, who was considered a COVID death. I don't know how you commit suicide and die from COVID. The contradictions, we're going to want to see all that unsealed. We're also going to push that any of you who have firsthand, I don't want to be inundated with, well, I have a neighbor who has a friend who has a cousin who is third person removed. I'm not interested in that. If you have firsthand testimony or witness of a case where you have been considered positive with COVID, never having taken the test, something is suspicious about what you're a part of, please let us know as we put together, it's the discovery phase, as we put together not only our expert witnesses, but we're going to put together testimonies, and we're going to hold the county to the test. We're not going to go down quietly. We're going national. Tonight as we speak, I've been asking everyone I'm in contact with to take this all the way up to the highest levels. And I'm hoping tonight that this might even reach the President of the United States. In the meantime, what do we do as a congregation? I don't necessarily believe that the county is going to shut us down tomorrow, although they may. We're still going to have services. I'd encourage you to come to the 9, 11, or 1 o'clock service. There will be a handful of protesters, maybe. They seem to be dwindling. I'm noticing that the community seems to be taking notice. It seems as though churches are waking up. We also have one of the largest outpourings of evangelism occurring on the beaches of Southern California. I was in contact with the folks that have been facilitating that. They too are still going to meet this week. They're not going to allow the state to shut them down as they're watching people come to Christ and baptizing them. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. It's time to stand, therefore, in the liberty for which Christ has set you free. If you don't have enough evidence to see this charade, then you need to get your head out of the sand. You need to awaken. You need to start to look beyond what they're feeding you with this pudding of deception and start realizing that this virus does not merit the draconian measures that they're placing upon the churches and businesses, but not these Marxist revolutionaries who are burning our cities. Wake up, participate, stand, encourage your pastors to do the same. This is critical for the health of this nation and for our state. And as our elders meet, we're going to decide what we're going to do, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, as more than likely we're going to be faced with the consequences of whatever the county feels they want to level upon us. The noose is tightening. The consequences are increasing. But our resolve has only grown stronger. And so please, above all that, of what I've asked of you, be brave and come out, number one. Show up. If you've never attended our fellowship, you don't have to attend if you have a church, but I would certainly be encouraged if you have nowhere to go on Sunday, come out and support us. We would so be blessed by that as a body of Christ would encourage one another. And secondly, what I would ask more than anything else is that you would humble yourself, turn from your wicked ways and pray. Fervent prayer is so critical right now. Please get the word out to everybody you know. Have them subscribe to this YouTube channel. Ask people to watch this. Ask them to pray. Implore them to pray. We are at a critical point in the history of our nation. We're just a tiny little fellowship facing what would be considered a Goliath in the county. But what Goliath didn't realize is the battle wasn't against David and Goliath. The battle was against Goliath and God. I've already given up all this. I'm already dead. You can't threaten me with death. The Apostle Paul said, I have been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, it's Christ who lives in me. What I do, I don't do because of notoriety. We've avoided the press to all of our ability. I have no desire, and anyone who attends this church knows that, I have no desire to be Christian famous. I gave away power. I surrendered my seat. I've given up the church. Half the congregations went with another pastor willingly and joyfully, and that was from our heart. I don't want to be the biggest church. I don't want to steal congregants. I've even told you, and you know this, you've been in the services these past Sundays. I've told you once this is all over, go home to your church. This isn't about me. I'm dead. And there's nothing they can take that I haven't already given to God. So fear is gone. It's only increased my resolve to stand. But I would ask all of you, why would you avoid Sunday? What are you afraid of? God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. We do not live in uninteresting times. This is a refiner's fire. God is sifting. He's looking who really has faith. You can say with your lips you have faith, but faith without acts, faith without works is dead. Now it's time to stand. And I welcome you all tomorrow, 9, 11, and 1. Come out in force. Come out bold, but humble. Big difference. Don't come out shaking your fist because people are never the enemy, they're the opportunity. I concluded the call with Rigo by saying, Rigo, I want you to know something. I'm praying for you. And I meant it. I said, I'm praying God gives you wisdom. You're not my enemy, Rigo. The ideology in which you support is one that I stand against, but you're not my enemy. I'm praying for you. And to his credit, you know what he said? Thank you. Thank you. Come out humble, come out bold, and come out realizing that people aren't the enemy, they're the opportunity. And the people you're standing for are the ones you want to see set free. But it's going to require that, as the Apostle Paul, standing fast therefore in the liberty for which Christ has set you free, he wrote that when he was in prison. Liberty is doing what's right. Stand on behalf of the ones that persecute you. Stand on behalf of the ones that don't understand you. Stand on behalf of the ones that are ignorant and don't know how to deal with all this. Stand and give them courage. Because Jesus said, I've come that you might know the truth, and the truth would set you free. The truth is, Christ has come for liberty. All of man's government, the oligarchies of the world, want to enslave you. They want you to kneel and to bow and to submit. Not in America. Not now, not ever. For 244 years, we have been the land of liberty. Land of the free, home of the brave. And the sovereign in America is the first three words of the Constitution, we the people. And every one of those elected officials governed by our consent. And now it's time to stand. It says in the Declaration of Independence that it's our right, but more importantly, it's our duty. That when any government goes after those inalienable rights, it is our right and our duty to stand in opposition. I'm thrilled that Pastor John MacArthur is now joining us. I kind of look at him as Patton. When he said to the 92nd Airborne or 101st Airborne that were surrounded in the Battle of the Bulge, they said, we weren't surrounded. We were just fighting on every front. And the reality is, it was Patton who said we came to deliver him. He said we didn't need to be delivered. We were doing just fine. I'm glad you've joined the fight. Truly, I am glad that Pastor John is with us. Now it's time for more churches to grow and to stand. And I just ask, please, be humble, be bold, be loving, and above all else, pray. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you all for your prayers. It's an honor to be your pastor. A lot of strength that comes from knowing how many people are holding us up. Last thing, I officiated a funeral for my friend's wife, and she was my friend too, Dee Wilson. They'd been married 68 years. I saw the picture of them on their wedding day. Staff Sergeant Robert Wilson, was in his Marine Corps uniform, fresh back from Korea, where he had survived the Chosin Reservoir. He had fought so that half of the Korean peninsula could remain free. And now today with freedom, they're the 11th largest GDP on the face of the earth. A huge revival occurred in South Korea, a strong Christian nation. And for 68 years, he and his best friend walked hand in hand. And today he said goodbye. And I looked at him and I said, Bob, what you did for the Korean people and what you did for America, I just want you to know I'm honored to call you a friend. And with you I stand. And the gift that you've given to this nation isn't going to die on my watch, nor on yours. And so please, find it within yourself, that courage. Don't quit, don't give up, don't cower. And I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you all. And I want to close with number 6. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Peace is not the absence of danger, but the presence of the Lord in the midst of the danger. Don't forget that, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless you all, and good night, everybody.